Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin English, founder of The Silver Edge. Our mission at The Silver Edge is to inspire men and women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond to live their strongest, healthiest, most fulfilling lives. In this podcast, we share stories of amazing individuals who are doing just that, to help motivate you to become the healthiest version of yourself, regardless of your age. And now, on to today's podcast. Hello, my guest today is Maria Blacutt. Maria is a 53-year-old online personal trainer. She has been training people for 25 years in fitness, nutrition, and mindset. She worked on the floor for 20 years and has switched to online work in the last 5. Maria now focuses on working with men and women over the age of 40. She teaches people to be strong, fit, and sexy. Yes, she believes that everyone at all ages want to look and feel sexy, and she inspires people to be comfortable and attractive in their body, no matter what their age or level of fitness is. Maria teaches that fitness is a journey and that all stages should be enjoyed. Movement and healthy eating come in many shapes and forms, and each person must find a way that works for them so that they can have a sustainable fitness lifestyle. Maria was born in La Paz, Bolivia in the 60s. She has lived in Bolivia, Brazil, Canada, Holland, and most recently, Houston, Texas. She's the mother of 3 adult children, now 24, 22, and 19. Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you so much for having me here. It is an honor.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I certainly want to dig into your thoughts on healthy aging, but let's back up and start at the beginning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up, if you were active? Give us a little background there, please.
Okay, sure. Well, I was born in La Paz, Bolivia. And to be honest, it's interesting. My story is kind of interesting because my mother was a pioneer in female fitness at that time. So she is Bolivian, but she trained with the Canadian Air Forces, and she brought that concept back to Bolivia. And she opened the very first gym in La Paz, Bolivia. And we're literally talking in the 1950s, where women did not leave their houses very much. Like, in the 1950s, things were different here in the U.S., but can you imagine in Bolivia? So when my mom began her gym, it was like an aerobics type, like a Jane Fonda type, except they didn't have music. So they just did a little bit of exercises in a big open space. And after about 10 years, she actually introduced music, and she trained with Jane Fonda. My mom trained with Jane Fonda.
Wow.
Yeah. yeah. And so she brought music into her gym, and that was like awesome because women at that time, all of a sudden, had an opportunity to get out of their houses and to do a little bit of exercise and to listen to music. It was almost like being in a discotheque. Can you imagine? So my mom blew up. Like literally, she blew up at that time. She opened gyms all over South America from Panama down. Like awesome. Like she had honestly about 35 gyms from Panama down all over the place. And it was just Jane Fonda style training. And so I worked for her. Like since I was 15 till my mom got sick. And I'll just tell you a little bit about that. I worked for my mom, so I always gave aerobics classes. So I was an aerobics instructor with the full leg warmers and the headband, curly hair. I did it all. But then my mom got sick. She got an aneurysm, and that was the end of that. I actually, when my mom got sick, because I'm very close to my mom, I went on a very deep, dark hole. It was really hard for me. So that's where I began weightlifting. One of my friends said, why don't you try weightlifting? You're so much into fitness and you're such an active person and you need to get out of this rut, because I was in a rut. So I actually decided to go to a gym, and there weren't gyms in Bolivia at the time for women. So I went like to a dungeon. Like it was literally a hole in the wall that smelled like, oh, I can't even imagine. Please don't remind me what it smelled like. But anyways, it was a hole in the wall. And 99% of the people there were men, sweaty, horrible looking, awful looking men. And then there was me, and I'm a little woman, like I'm pretty small. then there was me. But anyways, I began weightlifting and I became friends with everybody, and I really began seeing a change in my body because, as you probably know, weightlifting is probably one of the things that most makes a difference in your physique. Like, um, you really begin seeing the muscles coming on quickly. And so as soon as I began seeing my legs taking shape and my abs coming through and me having a little bit of shoulders, because I've always been very thin. Like I'm a lean woman to begin with, always been that way. So it was just so nice. And to feel that empowerment and the strength in my body, just it uplifted me. So it uplifted me physically, but more than anything, it uplifted me mentally. I just felt like so cool and so Rambo and and the discipline involved in lifting. So that is where my lifting career took off. And I know a lot of women, when I say I'm a bodybuilder, think, oh my God, you must be huge. And they envision me. I'm not. Like, I'm actually a really little woman. I'm very muscular. But when I talk about my bodybuilding career, please don't envision me as this huge woman, because I'm not. I'm not. I have a lot of muscle mass, but a lot of people imagine me like being super big. That's not the way I look. But yeah, so, and you know what, Kevin? I kept at it. Like, honestly, it's been 30 years of me training at the gym, through thick, through thin. I've had 3 kids. I've lived in different countries. I've had good times and bad times, like everybody in this world. And I've just continued. And here I am, 53 years old, and I'm still lifting weights.
That's a great story. So it sounds like obviously you've always been active. That is just fantastic to hear that your mom was bringing female fitness, that first aerobics into the Latin American market. So it really gave you a nice springboard. So how old were you then when you were introduced to weightlifting?
I was exactly 23.
Okay.
So young. I was fairly young.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think that it must have taken some amount of courage to walk into a gym where that's probably not a cultural norm. I'm guessing it wouldn't have been certainly in North America in that time. I don't imagine it was in South America either. So what was it like for you walking into a gym, being either the only woman or one of the only women there? And like you're explaining kind of this dungeon type thing full of sweaty men.
It was hard. And I think I'm walking proof that where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't care what anybody else thinks about me. I'm doing this. Honestly, it was hard. A lot of people criticize me because I wear shorts. I'm an athlete. I've trained in shorts my entire life, and I wasn't going to change that. I walked into the gym with my shorts and with my tank top, and that was the end of that. And a lot of people criticized me. They were like, what are you doing? Why are you going to this horrible, nasty looking gym? Why don't you just run or do, or continue your mother's path? Like, because at that time, obviously, the whole Jane Fonda thing was blowing up. And here I was training weights. And I took my leg warmers off. So anyways, I really got criticized a lot. And I got criticized for a good 15 years for being a bodybuilder, and also be like when my legs began to grow a little bit and I began getting abs, like it wasn't the thing. It's incredible how things have changed now. Like a lot of people said to me, especially women, aren't you getting a little too big, or you look a little manly, or and nowadays, if you put on a mini skirt and you have a little bit of muscle on your legs, you're like, wow. But at that time it was like, I don't know, like people did not think it was very aesthetic. It was hard, but it's what I wanted to do. It's what made me feel good. It's what pushed me forward. It's what made me what I am today. And incredible, because I think, and I don't want to sound presumptuous, but the physique I have today is a physique that everybody wants to have now. But at that time, like who the heck had a 6-pack, at that time in Bolivia?
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Certainly our aesthetics and the way we think about physique, and women's physique specifically, have certainly changed a lot in recent history. So going back to those first months, maybe years in the gym, certainly it sounds like you got some pushback from the people around you. How did the men in the gym treat you? How did they see you coming in? Did they welcome you, or was there a little bit of defensive-ness?
Well, you know know what? I think, like everything in life, people treat you how you treat yourself. And I honestly think that is absolutely true. So I walked in, I was 100% focused. I didn't mess around or give room for anybody to cross a line with me. So I walked in, I trained, I chatted with everybody, but I did not give any room for disrespect. And if anybody disrespected me, they heard it from me because I was not taking crap from anybody. And to this day, I honestly think people treat you how you treat yourself. And I was so focused and so determined to get to where I want that the men around me actually respected that, and they saw me as one of the guys. And to be honest with you, you're not going to believe this, but my first really good job, I got from the gym because one of the men that trained with me watched me, and he was actually a minister of Bolivia at that time, like a very high level minister. And one day he approached me, he said, "You know what? If you work professionally the way you train, I want you on my team." And so I began working with him, and I worked for him for about 5 years with his team in the ministry, just because he saw the level of focus and determination that I had.
Were you doing physical training work or other type of work? Was he just seeing your work ethic and saying, "Hey, I want you to be on my team"?
Yeah. Because I had talked to him. I graduated actually from Canada, from the University of British Columbia in international relationships. So I did have my professional career. And at that time I was working for CARE Bolivia, which is a non-governmental organization that helps poor people. And so because he worked in the ministry, he knew I was a professional person. He said, "If your work ethics is like your work ethics at the gym, I want you on my team." So yeah. So basically, by the people around me at the gym, I got treated very well because that's the sort of respect that I portrayed to people.
And then moving on from there, so we've got a very active childhood. We got a very, as a young person, very active, moving from that aerobic to that strength. I do want to come back to that and talk a little bit about the difference between the classic women's aerobics, if you will, and resistance training. But let's continue forward a little bit with the biography here. So now you're a little later in life and you're having some kids. You mentioned that you have been training more or less, or perhaps more, the last 30 years with weight training. How did you manage that during the years when you had kids and young kids specifically? Because I know a lot of women, you hear a lot the excuse, "Well, I can't get to the gym. I don't have time to get to the gym." And then they have the bodies and the body images that come with that. And there's almost this defeatist cycle. So talk to us a little bit about how you went through those years.
Well, you know what? Mike actually asked me that in his podcast. And the way I went through it is little by little, one step at a time. Like I realized that I was a mother of 3 kids. Like at one point I had a 1, a 3, and a 5-year-old. Like that's a nightmare,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of work. But the way I did it is in little chunks. So when I was like that, I did 5 minutes of squats, and then I breastfed one baby, and then I did 5 minutes of lunges, and I breastfed the other baby. I did it in little chunks. And Kevin, this is a big one I'm going to give you. I did not go into that self-loathing. I hate my body. Oh my God, I'm never going to look nice again. I did not go down that hole. I did not let myself go down that hole. I just thought, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do what I can in the little time frames that I can, in little chunks. And I'm just going to keep going. And I love the way I look because I had just created 3 babies. I mean, my body had just created 3 babies. I was full of flab. My skin was all like I could literally go like this with my flab, whatever. But I did not go down that hole of self-loathing, what that a lot of women do. And I didn't go down that hole of desperation. I just did what I could in little chunks. And you know what? Those little chunks add up. Because if you add up 5 minutes of squats and 5 minutes of lunges and 5 minutes of push-ups and 5 minutes of abs, it's 20 minutes of workout a day. That's a heck of a lot. And throughout the years, it's a heck of a lot better than not doing anything at all.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And you talk a lot in your Instagram, you talk a lot about mindset and the importance of discipline. And you had a recent post on grit where you talked about grit as perseverance and stick to itness. Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe the difference between discipline and motivation and the interplay between there, and how maybe that worked for you, certainly during those years of raising children, but also today?
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, I honestly can tell you that I work on my mindset just as hard as my body, because thoughts are everything. What you think is everything. Mindset is everything. And so I have always worked very hard on my mindset. And it's because when my mom got sick when I was very young, I really went into a type of depression. I don't know if it was depression or not, because I was never, I never went to anybody, but it was just like I went into a very dark hole. And I don't want that for me ever again. Like I saw black, the depths of the human experience at that point in time. And I don't ever want that again. And so when I began training my body, I also began training my mind. And one of the things that I realized is that discipline is one thing and motivation is another. Motivation is fickle. Motivation is what you right now listening to me can think, oh my God, I'm going to begin training and maybe I inspire you. But motivation comes and goes. Like tomorrow you might wake up and you have a really bad cold and your house floods and then that's the end of your motivation. Discipline is another thing. Discipline is something that sticks with you. And one of the secrets of hanging on to your discipline is building habits. And I think I'm a person of very strong habits. Like I have ingrained certain habits into my system of life that have worked really well for me. And one of them is I get up in the morning. I'm an Instagrammer. I have Facebook and TikTok. My phone is going bling, bling, bling all day. I don't even look at my phone. I get up, I drink a glass of water and I sit on my floor. I meditate for 10 minutes. I have a gratitude journal. I write things that I'm grateful for, deeply grateful for, and just little things like, I'm so glad I got my toenails painted today. Little things that make me happy. And I already begin with a positive mindset. I begin thinking what I'm going to do that day. I'm imagining myself training and really crushing it and not messing around. And so that builds discipline. Discipline are all those little things that are habits that you don't really have to think about. You just do them because they're part of your lifestyle. And obviously, you probably know this. That's one of the keys to success, like having really strong habits that will become your discipline.
That's very well said. Yes. I think in that same post on discipline or grit, you talked about it's not that you have discipline during a workout for that hour. It's not that you have discipline that day or even that week or that month, but that it's a year long or years long or a lifelong. It's more of a journey than a destination, and it becomes ingrained as habit. It becomes a part of your lifestyle as opposed to just a short time duration. Because I think it's easy for people to be disciplined for short periods of time, and it's a lot harder for them to do that over the long haul.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people ask me or comment to me, you're so positive, you're so strong, No, I'm not. I work on it. Like if you saw my room or my working area, I have little stickers all over the place saying, I love and I trust myself. You got this. The universe is yours. Like I have so many mantras going on that like I just brainwash myself. I brainwash myself into being what I want to be. I convince my thoughts that this is what I am, and I think it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And in fact, I'm sure it does, because the more you repeat positive things to yourself, it's the same thing. The more you repeat that you suck, that you're a loser, that you can't do it, that you're shy. I'm not going to say I'm shy, but I'm actually an introvert. And for those people who have met me in high school, I was very shy and very introverted, but I have convinced myself that I'm not, that I can stand up and I can talk, and that what I have to say is worthy in this world. And yeah, I work on my mindset a lot, Kevin. Trust me.
It shows. Yeah. It comes through. That's fantastic. Because I think a lot of people might just think that that's innate and might not understand that mindset as well as a physique are things that you can work on and that you can improve over time. And that, again, it's a journey, not a destination. You're doing these things today, right? It's not like you've arrived. You are working on them even still. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, negative thoughts creep into your head all the time, into my head, your head, everybody. You always have those moments of self-doubt. I always have those moments where I think maybe I'm not good enough or I'm too old so many things that crawl into your head, but I just don't let them. I have decided, I have I have set my mind on not letting negativity affect me, because there is so much negativity in the world. And I'm sure I have a lot that I could worry about myself and about the way I look and what people think of me. But I do not allow it. I have made that decision not to allow negative thoughts about me to affect my life, because you know what? I only have one life. I have one. That's it. And so do you. And then we might as well we might as well make the best of it and just really go for it in this one life, this one shot we have at living.
Yeah, and you that's again very well said. I love it. You are so inspirational. You have another. I'm going to read just a little quote you have. You were talking about on an Instagram post. If you're looking for happiness and fitness, and I think the idea was that you're not if you're looking for quote unquote happiness, you may or may not find that in a perfectly sculpted body. In fact, you said if you're in search of the golden chalice of happiness, you'd better start working on your mindset and your heart. And as I went through and read the rest of that, it seems to me that you were saying that happiness is this very holistic thing. So when we talk about working out, when we talk about discipline, when we talk about setting our intentions for the day, when we talk about gratitude journals, just all these pieces coming together to make a complete, whole, and happy individual. Is that fair? Can you talk a little bit about that, your feelings on happiness?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? I'm a personal trainer, and honestly, 90% of my clients say to me, when I lose this weight, I want to be happy. When I lose this weight, this will happen. When I lose this weight, I'll be like in paradise. And I teach people, no, that's not actually the way that works. I mean, you can look like a Barbie right now and you're going to feel exactly the same. Your feelings aren't going to change just because you look super hot. Doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden going to be happy. It's like being rich. If right now I gave you $1 million, it wouldn't all of a sudden make you a happy person, would it? It really wouldn't. I mean, it's nice to have and it's nice to be thin and fit and everything, but that's not really happiness. And so I teach people, and myself included, to enjoy the journey of fitness, to enjoy the journey of losing weight and exercising or becoming a millionaire or whatever you do. You have to enjoy the journey, because when you get there, which you probably never do, because being very rich or being fit or being very thin is a journey. But when you think, oh yeah, I look great, this is the way I want to look, it's not the end of happiness. Happiness really is working on yourself and loving the journey of fitness. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. A lot of the ladies I work with, sorry, my dogs are barking.
That's all right.
I think a lot of the people that I work with, or a lot of the ladies who come to me, go wrong because they think that to lose weight or to be fit, they have to be miserable and they have to white knuckle their way through and hate themselves to thinness. And then they're all of a sudden going to love themselves. Well, let me tell you, once you're thin and fit, it's not like all of a sudden you're going to go, oh my God, now I love myself. You have to love yourself from day one. You have to love yourself if if you have some weight to lose, if you have been a couch potato for the next 20 years, you have to love yourself into fitness, and then it'll work. And then you're going to find your happiness.
Yeah, you have to love yourself into fitness. I've not heard it put that way, and I love that. So I think that's a problem with a lot of folks today. And you mentioned that people kind of white knuckle and they just grin and bear it. And I think part of the problem with maybe you do and maybe you don't stick with that long enough to quote unquote get in shape or to lose the weight that you're trying to lose. But if you don't love that journey, if you haven't created new habits, what happens when you get there? You've done something that you've absolutely despised for 3, 6 months, however long it is. And then most likely, if you really hated that journey, you don't stay on it. It doesn't become a part of your lifestyle. And I feel like that's why a lot of diets or somebody who says, hey, I've got a big event, a wedding's coming up, I want to drop 20 pounds, or it's getting ready to be swimsuit season, I need to lose X amount of weight. And so they do this rash diet. Maybe they do, maybe they don't lose the weight. But the problem is once they get there, then what, right? They're oftentimes defaulting, they've gone through this horrible stage where they've deprived themselves. They felt like they've deprived themselves. And now they go back to exactly where they were before. And more often than not, they're going to gain that weight back. And I think that's a problem with a lot of folks in the diet industry.
Yeah, for sure. And also that crash dieting, like it throws off your metabolism. Like if you go on a very strict diet, then your body perceives it as starvation. And so what happens is that it just slows your metabolism down, your hunger hormones increase, so you begin feeling hungry. Your body fights you back. So anyways, going on a very strict diet does not help you, first of all, mentally, second of all, because you're not going to stick to it, and third, because you've just lowered your metabolism. And then when you begin eating normal again, your metabolism is lower. So chances are that you're going to gain more weight than what you had to begin with, just because you threw your body off. So really the way to lose weight and to get fit is with a little bit of patience, with a moderate caloric deficit, eating foods that you enjoy, not black and whiting foods, like saying these foods are good and these foods are bad, but including a very balanced diet into the way you eat, and also including a form of exercise that you like. I obviously think that bodybuilding is the way that you're going to change your physique the fastest. But if a client says to me, I hate the gym, I'm not going to do it. All right, what do you like to do? What do you like to do? Let's work on that. If you like ballet, if you like boxing, if you like walking, let's begin with that, because as long as you get somebody active and you get somebody to stick to it, then that is where they're going to begin seeing results.
Yeah, so I think maybe this is a good time then to transition to talk a little bit about resistance training or working out. So maybe I think we mentioned earlier the difference between aerobics and resistance training or weightlifting. And let's maybe start with your thoughts on women today. And I think this is changing, but women today, a lot of them have this preconceived notion that I don't want to lift weights. A, it's for men, and B, I don't want to get manly, I don't want to get bulky. And they have this preconceived notion that if they pick up a barbell, they're automatically just going to get giant and huge and swole and not be sexy. Can you talk a little bit about resistance training versus aerobics and how that's kind of what your theories are and how you work with your clients on that?
Okay, well, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of resistance training. You don't have to go into a gym for resistance training. There are many ways. Like right now that everybody's at home, you can do it with a backpack, you can do it with a brick, you can do it with, it can be with whatever you feel comfortable with. But the reason why resistance training works so well when you're trying to lose weight and obviously get fit is because of the message it sends to your body. So when you are working with weights, you're sending a message so your body, when you put yourself at a caloric deficit, so you're eating less calories than what your body expends, your body has to get that energy from somewhere. So you have two options. Your body can get that extra energy from fat, or it can get it from muscle. That's it. Fat or muscle. So your body is here deciding, am I going to get this extra energy from fat or from muscle? So if you are weight training from an evolutionary point of view, your body perceives weight training as you need to lift this, you need strength for survival. That's how your body perceives it. So if you are weight training, your body will tend to use fat as fuel and leave your beautiful muscle alone. So that's huge. Like, come to think of it, like so many women spend so much time cardioing themselves to death when they're actually sending the wrong message to your body. Because then if you're doing a lot of cardio, your body ends up using fat and muscle as fuel, and a lot of muscle. It uses both energy sources. If you're just training with weights or mainly training with weights, your body uses fat as fuel, and it leaves your nice toned tush alone. That's huge. That's something that I've been trying to drive home so much. It is the message you are sending to your body. Leave my muscle alone and use fat as fuel. Whereas if you see women who do a lot of cardio, they often, even if they end up losing weight, they become like skinny fat because they don't get that toned look. They've just starved themselves and cardio themselves in, because you can cardio enough that you're going to lose the weight, but you just have a very different look, and it's a lot harder to cardio yourself thin than to weight train yourself thin. I don't do a lot of aerobics, by the way. I walk my dogs that are barking like crazy outside for some reason. I walk my dogs every day for 40 minutes, and I weight train. That's it. My cardio is walking my dogs. But it is key. And also, of course, training with weights gives you that beautiful toned look. So women say to me, I don't want to be huge. I don't want to be big. I've been trying my entire life to be big. And this is as big as I've gotten. My entire life, I've done everything. Obviously, I'm a natural, right? But my entire life, I've done everything. I've trained, I've eaten, everything I possibly could natural. You don't get very big at all, but you do get toned. And it is muscle that gives you those nice, sexy curves, that toned look that everybody is after, that athletic look. It is weight training. It's not cardio. Have you ever seen a marathon runner having like that beautiful bum and those beautiful legs? No. So yeah, that's my stance. Weight training really is the way to go.
Yeah, I think a lot of women in particular, but I think probably men and women have this when they're overweight. They have this number on the scale, right? I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to lose 20, 30, however many pounds. And maybe they're not thinking of it in that terms. Really what they mean is I want to lose body fat, right? I want to change my body composition. And I think the general population maybe sometimes misses that. And I think that's why resistance training and barbell training gets overlooked a little bit, because the common culture out there says, hey, you want to lose weight, get on the treadmill, go for a walk, go for a run. And while these, there's nothing wrong with moving, and everybody should move. You're exactly right. I'm with you on the resistance training. Have you read a book called The Barbell Prescription by any chance?
No, I haven't.
I'll shoot over a link to it. It's by a guy named Jonathan Sullivan. I'm looking over at the book now. And it's strength training for after 40. But in that first chapter, he just lays out this really beautiful description of exactly what you're explaining, right? Just why resistance training, especially for people over 40, is much more significant than aerobics training. So speaking of training, can you give us an idea of what your training looks like these days? How many days a week you're working? Are you primarily, I suspect, functional movements or compound lifts? Tell us a little bit about what your workout routine looks like.
Okay, sure. So I train 5 days a week. I lift, so it takes me about 90 minutes. So it's a long workout. It's not for everybody. This training 90 minutes lifting weights is not for everybody, but it's something that I like. I lift mainly with compound exercises. And compound exercises are those movements that work more than one muscle group at a time. For those of you who don't know, it's exercises that work more than one muscle group at a time. So for example, squats work your quads, they work your hamstrings, they work your glutes. Deadlifts work everything. So bench press works the front of your shoulders, it works your chest, it works your triceps. So any of those compound movements really give you a good bang for your buck. Why do I focus on those? Because at my age, I'm really trying to keep up my total body strength and power. And I really want to get a lot of bang for my buck. So for example, if I spent 15 minutes doing tricep extensions, which just work your triceps, it's a little muscle and I'm wasting a lot of time and my precious energy because I don't have all the energy in the world anymore working a very small muscle group. Whereas if I spent 20 minutes doing some heavy squats, I'm working my core as well. So compound movements are very time efficient, hard exercises to do, mind you. They're not easy. But I would say 80% of my lifts are compound exercises. And then I do some isolation exercises, which just work one muscle group, like bicep curls or tricep extensions. I do a little bit of work on my glutes. And I do a little bit of abs, but compound exercises are really what give you your abs.
And speaking of abs, you had a recent post talking about, I think you said, want to know what my strongest muscle group is? It's my abs. And you talk about your abs, and clearly you've got fantastic abs. But a couple of things there. One, you talk about the way you get your abs. And I think you actually gave folks 3 or 4 pointers on, hey, if you want great abs, this is what it takes. But the other thing I found really interesting in that post was you had mentioned that getting great abs comes from dieting, from compound lifts, and not from doing hundreds of crunches or doing long runs, but that it takes years. And you emphasize that point. I didn't get abs in a week or a month, or it's a long journey towards that. So talk a little bit about that, about how folks that are looking for, not everybody wants 6-pack abs and do the work that it takes, but for those that do, talk a little bit about what it takes.
Well, it's funny because in today's time, everybody wants 6-pack abs. Like it is kind of like the golden chalice of fitness. So that's what everybody's focused on. But a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to get 6-pack abs. To begin with, to get 6-pack abs, like to make them visible, you have to be fairly lean. So women have to be between 18 to 20%, at least 18 to 20% body fat, which is hard. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. And that's fair enough. Like if you don't want that, fair enough. If you want to have that body fat percentage, you do have to make some sacrifices. Men have to be between an 8 and a 10. So that's quite low for a man. The other thing that helps, for me, what's made the biggest difference are compound exercises, because compound exercises like squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead lifts, all of those really engage your core. Like when you're lifting, your core is totally engaged. It works. Compound exercises work your abs a lot more than just doing crunches. But it's something that takes a while. You have to be thin. You have to be very muscular. You have to have a certain muscular thickness. But the honest truth is that abs are also genetic. They really are. There's some people, and anybody can get a six-pack ab, but some people get it more than others because it is genetic. I know some fitness athletes who are incredibly lean, who lift 10 times what I lift, and their abs are just not popping. It's not in their genetics. And that's just one thing that you have to live with. Like a lot of people, they want to have like a thin lower body, and they just accumulate fat in their lower body, and they can only lose so much weight. And they're just going to have to live with the fact that that's what their body looks like, and live with it. So abs are the same thing. I think one has to look at your body and say, I can only work this to a certain point, and then this is what mom and dad gave me, and I have to live with this.
It might be a good transition, because I think a lot of us have heard the saying that abs are made in the kitchen. And I want to talk some now a little bit about your thoughts on nutrition. How does one eat to be fit and active? And how does one eat if they want to have visible abs?
Well, if you want to lose weight, if you need to lose weight, you need to be at a caloric deficit. What does that mean? It means that you need to eat less calories than what your body uses up. So your body uses a certain, calories is a measure of energy. Your body needs to use a certain amount of calories to live and breathe and walk your dogs and do whatever you do. So let's say that you use this many calories to do all of your activities. If you want to lose fat, body fat, you need to eat less. So you need to eat this much. And this calorie deficit, this gap here, hopefully is going to be burned as fat. Like I said, you have two energy sources. You can use fat as muscle. Doesn't matter what you do, but you always will use a little bit of both. But you do need to be at a caloric deficit. The ideal way to do it in an ideal world is to track your calories, to actually get an app. And there are many of them. I like MyFitnessPal, and actually track your calories. So every single thing that you eat, you input it into this app, and it actually counts exactly what you're eating. So you have a perfect notion of every lick, bite, and nibble. But that's not for everybody, Kevin. I mean, a lot of people it doesn't work. It's super obsessive. It's super, a lot of people get really anxious doing that. So the next step down is you could always hire a coach to design meal plans for you until you get the hang of it. But I have a lot of clients who don't want to have that obsessive lifestyle, who've already had a bad relationship with food, and they just want a general notion. So what I do with a lot of people is I just give them an idea. For example, this is what I would consider one portion of carbs, a palm of your hand is one portion of protein, and this, like I just give them a thumb is one measure of fat. So I would say to them, depending on how big they are, at least have one measure of protein in every single meal, have one of carbs and one of fat. So for most women that works if you have that in every meal. So it kind of depends what level of control you want. The ideal is, again, to track your macros, or to have meal plans made for you, or you yourself make meal plans, or just to eyeball it and have an idea. But what you want at the end of the day is to be at a caloric deficit, to eat less calories than what your body expends. And that's the only way to do it. So
yeah. That's where the magic is, right? In that caloric deficit. And for people listening that are hearing caloric deficit, and we've already talked about the dangers of crash dieting and yo-yo dieting. When you say caloric deficit and people are hearing that, they may not be thinking what you're thinking. How much of a caloric deficit is recommended for healthy weight loss? I know that you see all the time advertised, hey, you can lose 10 pounds in 10 days. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but that's in no way a good idea. What's a safe way of losing weight, would you say?
Okay, a healthy amount, healthy and sustainable, because when we're talking about weight loss, it's very important to think about sustainability. If you lose too much weight too fast, you are increasing your chances of gaining it back. So a healthy and sustainable amount is 0.5% per pound of body weight for your body weight. So I don't have a calculator right now, but it's 0.5% per week. So on average, it would be about a pound a week. Say if you're 160 pounds, about a pound a week, which would be about a 500 calorie deficit, because 1 pound of fat, now this is a bit mathematical, so here goes. 1 pound of fat is about 3,500 calories. 3,500 calories. So if you want to lose 1 pound of fat a week divided by 7 days, it's 500 calories per day. So you would have to put yourself at a deficit of about 500 calories a day. So if your total daily energy expenditure is here, you want to drop 500 calories. And 500 calories is really doable. It's something where you won't be too hungry. You're going to feel good. Your energy is going to be good. You're going to be sleeping. You're not going to be cranky. You're not going to kill your husband. And, and you're going to be able to sustain it. And you're not going to throw your body off whack as well.
I think a lot of people miss that calorie deficit needs to be a small calorie deficit for a lot of the reasons that you've mentioned, and certainly sustainability and lifestyle is one. Right? It's those crazy crash diets or elimination diets. They're just not sustainable. They're not healthy. So yeah, a small caloric deficit is the way to kind of lose that weight. Do you subscribe to any particular diet, say keto or paleo or Whole30, or what is your philosophy on nutrition?
Okay, well, all of those diets, the keto, the paleo, the intermittent fasting, the only reason they work is because the only reason they would work is if they put the person at a caloric deficit. It's the only reason. And they can work for a lot of people just because they help to organize somebody. So for example, I have a client who likes intermittent fasting, not because there's anything magic to it, but it just helps her like wrap her mind around it. She says, okay, Maria, I'm not going to eat from 7 until noon the next day, because it just helps her. So she has a smaller eating window. Mentally, it just helps her. It would kill me. Like I wake up and I'm starving. I need to eat before training. It wouldn't work for me. But it does work for a lot of people. But again, not because low carbs or high carbs or keto or any of those stuff has any magic. And I know a lot of people who do keto and paleo and all of those things, and they actually gain weight because they're on these diets and they end up eating more than what they consume. So really, losing weight is a numbers game. It's the second law of thermodynamics. Energy isn't lost or created. It's a numbers game. So whatever works for you. And so what do I think is the best diet? I think the best diet, Kevin, is the one that works for you. The one that works for you. You have to find something that you will be able to stick with and that you will feel happy with. And in that regard, I think that tracking your calories, as obsessive and pain in the ass as it is probably a good way to go, because I recognize that everybody is different. And so if you learn how to track your calories and you do it at least for 2 months, you just sacrifice yourself. You track your darn calories for 2 months. You will learn about food. You will learn about nutrition. You will learn about the value of what food means. And I think it will be worthwhile. In my experience as a coach, and I've done millions of meal plans, what works for me definitely doesn't work for you. It just doesn't. I had the experience the other day with my daughter. I've always preached, and eating high volume foods helps, because if you eat like a big salad or lots of vegetables with your meal, it makes your stomach nerves stretch, and it makes you feel fuller and more satisfied. And the other day, my daughter was saying, "Mom, that does not work for me. Like I don't like what you're saying. It does not." My daughter's 22, by the way. She said, "For me, what satisfies me is having something sweet." And so she actually weighs her food, and she was telling me, "I don't like volume. I like something that's really flavorful, that's really yummy. That is what satisfies me." And it just made me think, you're right. I've been preaching the wrong thing all these years. Like high volume, it works for me, but it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. A lot of people like something that's intensely sweet or intensely flavorful or has a lot of fat. If that's what you like and you can track your calories and it works for you. So tracking your calories is a very good way to do it.
I think that's really important. And like you said, even if you only do it for a couple of months, it gives you an idea of what your caloric intake is over time. It gives you a little, and by the time you've done a couple of months, you might see some trends. Wow, I eat a lot more calories on the weekends than I do on the weekdays. So you get some self-awareness. It also creates, I think people don't understand what a serving size is. So you had mentioned that's a great way of the palm size protein or the cupped hand of carb or the thumb of fats, but it gives people an idea of what a serving size is. It turns out 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is not very much peanut butter. And I think a lot of people kind of underestimate the calories that they're bringing in, and certainly tracking brings an awareness and education to that even if you've only done it for a couple of months, then at least you have that awareness and that carries forward.
Yeah. And you know what else is hidden? The licks, bites, and nibbles, Kevin. It is.
Yeah, I've not heard it called that before, but yeah, those add up.
The licks, bites, they really add up. Like just before you're closing the ice cream thing, those extra 3 little
right.
tablespoons, they add up, and they add up a lot. And I've actually had several clients who've totally thrown themselves out just because they nibble on their kids' plates. They have a little thing here. They're eating a little bit well. And they think, that's not going to do much. It adds up. Like we've added 500, 600 calories in licks, bites, and nibbles. So, one of the things that I tell my clients and I advise people is try not to do mindless grazing. Snack, like have a formal snack where you actually sit down and have your snack, but don't graze, which is like standing in the pantry deciding what you're going to eat. And meanwhile, you've eaten 500 calories.
Right.
Don't mindlessly graze.
Yeah. So mindful eating then, right? Eating mindfully as opposed to, I'm with you. We've all been there standing in the pantry, snacking while we decide if we want a snack or not, right? And that certainly can add up quite a bit. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on recovery. So now we've got, we've incorporated some sound nutritional principles. We've got some resistance training going. What are your thoughts on recovery and especially sleep in recovery?
Well, recovery is huge, huge. I mean, I don't train 7 days a week because I force myself not to, because I love to train. You need to recover. Your body, your muscles grow while you're recovering. And you need at least 2 days to recover, if not more, depending on your level of fitness. But recovery is super important. So I'll tell you, the way I train is I train 5 days a week. I usually train 3, then I rest 1, then I train 2, and I rest 1. And I usually do a cycle of about 5 weeks that I go full mode. And then for 1 week, I do a deload. I always deload. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean I stop training, but I just train at 50%. I hate it. It's super boring, but I do everything at 50% the weight, 50% everything, and 2 less reps. So I really let my body recover. And I think one of my secrets to success is I sleep. I really force myself to get enough sleep. And at our age, it's super important to avoid injury, to be in a better mood the next day, to focus, to train better. I honestly, at a certain time, I turn off all of my apps, all of my computers, and I get in bed and I read. And I try to sleep 8 hours a day. And that's huge. That's made a really big difference for me.
That's made a huge difference for me as well. And that's something that I've only recently really put some time into and trying to get good sleep hygiene and good sleep habits. And it does, it makes a huge difference. I'm a big proponent of sleep. What about supplements? Do you personally take supplements, or do you recommend them for clients?
Well, it depends. I take, you can get all of your protein is key to building muscle and also losing fat. So I take protein powder just because I can't eat that much protein. I don't have a big appetite, so I do take my protein powder, and I take creatine. And it's the only supplement that I take. Creatine really helps in terms of building strength and stamina, but it's not something I recommend to everybody. I think you to take creatine, you have to have a certain level of weight training and a certain focus. So if you're just a beginner, it's not going to make much of a difference. But once you begin getting at an intermediate level, I think creatine really does make a difference. Huge difference, actually.
Yeah, and that's one of the more studied supplements out there. There's a bazillion studies showing the effectiveness and safety of creatine. So that's a pretty common one. So protein, creatine for some folks, but you don't have any kind of across the board supplements that you recommend for older clients.
Well, I take fish oil. I take a good multivitamin, and I think that's it. I take a really good multivitamin. It's Rituals for plus 50 women in menopause, and I take fish oil every single day, and that's it. I don't do any pre-workouts or any fancy anything else. Those things can get expensive, and really, I think the benefits of anything else are marginal. There is nothing like eating well. There is nothing like eating healthy foods. And I think that's one of the reasons I propose, like, I like to tell people, eat protein, carbs, and fats. The minute you begin cutting out like carbs in your diet is when you begin feeling lethargic, when you don't feel right, when your energy goes low, when everything goes to heck. Eat a little bit of everything in good proportions and you're going to be healthy.
Yeah, that's very well said. So let's as we kind of wrap up here, what's on the horizon for you? What's next? You've obviously accomplished a lot. Do you have any kind of future goals or ambitions at this point?
Well, I've been a trainer for a long time, and for me, like, motivating other people really helps, and it's what makes me tick. It's my thing, like actually seeing results in people. It makes me happy. But I think I would like to be an influencer at a bigger level. I am I'm a pretty good public speaker. I'm not that at all. So maybe I'm going to begin pursuing making presentations at a larger scale. So I've been invited or had people approach me with the possibility of maybe me making some presentations to larger groups of people. Obviously, COVID came in, so that was the end of that. But once that ends, I think I might like to do a little bit of public speaking. I think that's something where I could hit a larger group of people and hopefully motivate some folks.
Yeah, we all look forward to that, and I agree. I think you will excel at that. So, what advice would you have for let's just say a hypothetical a woman in her 50s who maybe does not have your background? She's not had a fitness background and maybe none whatsoever, is overweight, maybe has some of the medical complications that go with that. Maybe she hears this podcast or stumbles on your Instagram and thinks that that's way too far out of striking zone for me. That's not attainable for me. What advice do you have to that type of person to start her fitness journey?
Well, I think the first thing is it's never too late. It's never too late. Like, some of the most successful people in life began in their 50s. And so you can always begin, but begin from a place of love. Begin from a place of compassion. Begin from a place of inner peace and thinking, I'm going to do the very best I can. I'm going to give it my very best shot and do it patiently and lovingly. And you will see results. You will see results. But comparing yourself to other people, thinking, trying to rush your body does not help. I think that being a little bit patient and dedicated, but lovingly, makes a really big difference. I think where a lot of people make a mistake at our age is they already begin, like, they shoot themselves in the foot before they already began. Like, they think, I'm too old for this. No, I'm not going to do it. But I can't do. This is too much. Instead of just giving it a chance, like, just give it a chance. Begin slowly. Take it in little bites. I have some clients that have began training with me, and they began literally 20 minutes 3 times a week. That's it. 20 minutes. And all we did for their diet is add protein. And you have to see where they are right now. Like we just added baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, and they have made huge changes in their life through the years. Right now, for example, if you're 51 or 55, in 3 years, can you imagine how much you could get done? It would be awesome. And I have seen awesome changes in people who are beginners at 50 that we began with baby steps, and 3 years down the road, they're lifting more than me. Yeah. So it's all a matter of baby steps. And there is nothing wrong with training 20 minutes 3 times a week. Nothing wrong with them.
That is beautifully said. So talk a little bit about your online coaching and how people can get in touch with you.
All right. I think my biggest platform is my Instagram, and it's Strong Maria Strong on Instagram. So I'm Strong Maria Strong is my handle. That is the best way. My email is strongmariastrong@gmail.com. And my training, I have an app that my clients download onto their phone. And what I do is I give them the training program. The training program I designed for clients is specifically to them. So I have an interview process. They tell me about their life, what they like, their injuries, and I design a training program for them. I also download meal plans. I make meal plans for my clients every single week, and I give them their meal plans. Same thing, it's on their phone. They have their meal plans plus grocery list, and I transition my clients onto learning how to track macros. So I do teach people I have some clients who don't want to learn, but at least I teach them. I say to them, okay, I know you don't want to do it, but just learn. And so if one day you want to, you'll have that tool. So I do teach people. I send them the material. If they don't want to look at it right then, they don't have to, but at least they have it in their computer to look at. But I think the biggest part of my program, Kevin, is mindset. I work really hard on mindset because people our age is kind of complicated because we're not old and we're not young. So you're kind of feeling, a lot of people are thinking, I'm beginning to feel old, but I have a young mind. I still want to go dancing and I still want to look sexy. But it's a really hard age. A lot of people mentally begin feeling emotionally drained and a little sad and a little discouraged because they've reached an age where they don't feel that they are where they want. So mindset is a really big part of my program. And I have an awesome Facebook group with my clients where we support each other on everything. I do a lot of lives with them. And 90% of what I do is mindset. Just get their mind right, get people feeling right. So that's my program.
And do you coach men and women both, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I coach men and women above 40, but the majority of my clients are women. I would say 85% of my clients. But you would be amazed how men have the same worries as women, like the exact same worries, like the same things women tell me. I'm worried, I'm getting fat, and I think I'm not as attractive anymore, and I want to have that vibe that I used to have. Men say the same thing to me, the exact same thing. So it's not that men are different from women. We all have the basic human needs.
And are most of the folks that come to you, do you take all levels? It sounds like maybe you're specializing in these beginner folks, or do you take more advanced folks that maybe they were athletes maybe in college and have kept decent shape and are now looking to, maybe the kids are gone and now they really want to kind of tune up for some specific event. Do you coach that type of folk as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So I coach. So I have 2 Facebook groups, one for more the advanced athlete type,
Okay.
and one for just the average person who wants to lose a little bit of weight and get fit. What I don't coach is people who want to compete. So I don't do competitive coaching because that's out of my realm. So I do coach though people who are, and I have several women who are like really high level, and I coach them. And that's also fun, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you look great. You're quite an inspiration, and I'd say you're a fantastic ambassador for healthy aging. And I certainly wish you the best of luck in all of your future endeavors. And I thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate you having me on, and I wish you all the best as well.
Well, that's our show for today, folks. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell your friends and please consider subscribing and giving us a 5-star review. All the show notes and much more are available at our website at silver-edge.com. That's silver-edge.com. So until next time, stay strong.